I bought my first rental property back in 2006, and admittedly, this concept took me a while to grasp, but once it did, this is what changed everything for me. And it's what allows my wife and I to live a lifestyle by design where we don't have W-2 jobs, we have lots of autonomy or control over our time. And I think some people just intuitively understand this concept when they're young, and they use it to get to financial freedom, and then they go on to build significant wealth. Others, they get it later in life, and then some, unfortunately, just never get it, and life can be kind of a slog. I'm going to sketch this concept out over here, and I think you will be shocked to learn that I did not go to art school after you see this sketch. You're probably going to want to screenshot it and use it as some sort of digital art or your background. I'm okay with that. But I do have to warn you, once you understand this concept, it's tough to go back to the traditional way of doing things. I think about the inefficiency of the effort-reward ratio that I experienced previously in the military or in some of the W-2 jobs that I've had, and it would be very difficult to go back to that after experiencing this concept that I'm about to share with you. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 3 sort of pitfalls that I see come up for a lot of people once they start to grasp this concept, and they can often be the thing that stands between them and financial freedom. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I want you to imagine for a second that you live over here on a farm where it's dry. And over here on this side, there is a big, beautiful lake with crystal clear blue drinking water. And so every day you wake up and you carry buckets from your house over to the lake. And carrying these buckets represents your job. And you get to the lake, you fill up the buckets, and you walk all the way back so that your family can have the water to enjoy and use. The water represents the money that you bring home from your work, right? So when you get the money home, your family enjoys it, and you've set up a life that requires using almost all the water. Then maybe, you've set up a storage tank in your backyard where, if you're one of the rare people out there, you divert some of the water into the storage tank. We'll call this a savings account, right? Or maybe you take some of that water and you throw it on some seeds in the backyard, and you grow seeds that are later going to yield you food, right? So we'll call these investments. So one day you're tired, you're walking along, and it's dry, and you realize that building a ditch to your house from the lake would get you some of the water you want without having to carry it in these buckets manually. And a ditch represents a rental property. So if you built the ditch, the water would flow automatically to your house. So what do? You start to research ditch building, you talk to other ditch builders for advice, you start building the ditch. Now, while building it, your family still needs water, right? Just like when you're buying and setting up your first rental property, you still need money coming in. So you still have to spend most of your time walking with your empty buckets to fill them up and bring them back. And then on nights and weekends, you can work on your ditch, and slowly over time, you can build your ditch. If you just quit going to the lake with your buckets and spent all your time building the ditch, obviously your family would probably dehydrate and be very upset with you. So after you learn how to build the ditch, you create a plan. Maybe you recruit and hire some people to help you. Maybe you trade some of your vegetables over here or some of your savings to recruit people to help you with your ditch building, and you actually build the ditch, or you complete the first rental property and you get it all set up. Now you have a trickle of water coming in automatically, and this is your first positive cash flow. And this is how most people start, but it's where you go from here that makes all the difference. Now, because you have this trickle coming in, you kind of have 2 options. This can either be a little bit less that you have to go collect in your bucket and you can use it to live on, or you can direct it right into the holding tank down here, or on the vegetables, requiring you to still have to carry just as much. So you still have to go to work and carry just as much, because all this is going into your reserves in your investment. For many, as soon as you start to experience this trickle of water or money coming in on a consistent basis without you having to work for it, and have it happen while you sleep at night, it changes something inside you. And you realize that there can be a better way. And the thought process that effort and income have to be tied together starts to loosen its grip on you. So you still have to fix up your ditch from time to time. It's just like you would have to do some things on a rental property. You know, you may have to repair the banks of the ditch and keep the water flowing, just like you'd have to make some repairs at a rental property, or, you know, screen tenants, or do a few things. But it's way less effort than walking with your buckets every single day, slogging away at your 9 to 5. Now, inevitably, at this point, you want to start building a new ditch, right? So you start your second ditch, and this time, it's a little bit better. Your stream of water is a little bit thicker, the cash flow is higher, the ditch is constructed better, it requires less maintenance, less management, it's just a better stream of income. And it doesn't happen overnight, but eventually you continue building these streams, and it happens a lot quicker than most people think it can happen. And you just keep building one stream after another, each time improving upon the one before, learning new lessons, getting better and better. Eventually, the streams are bringing in more water than you're carrying in your buckets, and so you no longer have to carry the buckets anymore, and this is what financial freedom is. And this is a starting point for a totally new way of living your life. Most people spend 10, 20, 30 years working, and then they realize that there's a better way and start educating themselves on how to build a ditch, i.e. a business or a rental property. Many people have a spouse or friend that say they're dumb for wanting to build their own ditch. They say things like, just carry buckets like the rest of us and then come out and drink beer on the nights and weekends like everybody else. What are you, some kind of special guy? You want to have your own ditch or rental property? And some people are just totally crippled with fear. Like, what if I start building this ditch and then it doesn't work out? Then what? Or I don't know how to build a ditch or invest in a rental property. Or what if a monsoon comes and wipes out the ditch? Or where will I find the money or the time? If any of this resonates with you, let me know in the comments below. But like I said, some get it right away, as soon as they start working a 9 to 5. And these are the people that you see living a lifestyle by design in their late 20s or early 30s. And you wonder, how is this possible for them? You know, did they just like strike it rich somehow? But they just figured out this concept and they put one stream in place at a time, and it builds a lot faster than you might think. Now, a couple of warnings for people who go down this path. And by the way, if this is helpful, go ahead and hit that like button so I know that it's helpful, and I'll keep creating stuff like this. But there's 3 sort of pitfalls that I see commonly with this. So a business can also be a ditch, but keep in mind that most people set up a business like a sandy, muddy, poorly constructed ditch that needs to be worked on constantly in order to keep water flowing through it. In other words, they spend just as much effort or more constantly reinforcing their ditch than it took to carry the buckets in the first place. You see this a lot with brick and mortar businesses that rely on the owner to do everything in order to function on a daily basis. A business can be an awesome ditch if you set it up to flow without relying on your constant hustle. The second downfall that I see is that a lot of people try to replace all their income at once and build a huge ditch all in one swooping effort. And this is like trying to do a complex $100 million deal for your first one, or even worse, strike it rich with a big speculative play like crypto or something like that. Inevitably, things aren't probably going to go as planned, and you're probably not going to be able to complete your ditch because you're going to run out of resources. This is like trying to go from obese to having a six-pack in one big push. It just doesn't work like that. If you're obese, you could starve yourself for a month and you're still not going to have a six-pack because you have no foundation and you're just shocking your system. If you want to go from 40% body fat down to a six-pack, you have to go through stages. You have to go to 30% first through some adjustments of some bad habits. Then you start to see what works. You tweak some things, you grow discipline, you train your body to be, healthier and like healthier food options. And the process gets more and more refined over time, and the results get better and better over time. And this is exactly how growing your cash flow works as well. You start with one stream and you tweak things, you make it better, and each time that ditch or that stream of income gets a little bit better. The final trap that I hear a lot of new people talk about is on the other end of the spectrum, from number 2. And that is that their first deal is just going to be a learning experience, quote unquote. And they don't mind if they don't make money. They're just trying to break even and learn some lessons. And I think this is very dangerous. Look, if you spend this much time building a ditch that at the end of it doesn't produce any water, it's super deflating, and it's really tough to garner support from your family or potential partners or friends if that's the case. So I don't think you have to hit a grand slam your first time up at bat, but I think it's lazy to not at least hit a solid single or a double and experience cash flow, because that's the momentum that's going to keep you going. And there's so many great resources out there that can help you get there. So if you're sick of carrying buckets every day, it might be time to start building your own ditch. Let me know if I can help.